The Raiders just looked awful. Talking to some Raider people after the game, people who've been around the team for a long, long time, said this is the worst team they could ever remember, and that is a massive, massive statement. Looking at that defense, Landon Roberts played a good game, and look, there are other pieces on that defense, but it's really Max Crosby and a bunch of journeymen on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary. Darian Porter is a nice third-round piece, but the offensive guys, it's Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. You know they can certainly play, and they're optimistic about Thornton and Bash. Colton Miller's hurt. JPJ is hurt. And look, they got to Geno Smith 10 times, and they could have sacked him 15 times. They really could have, but they only sacked him 10. And something had to give. And Frank, I'll start with you. Chip Kelly, I don't like to make it about money, but they gave him a nice paycheck to leave Ohio State. Whether it was Tom Brady, John Spytek, Mark Davis, or Pete Carroll's idea, doesn't matter. They fired him. And Chip Kelly is coming home to Manhattan Beach. And I don't know where the Raiders go now, because this is looking like a tear down. And you have a 74-year-old head coach.
Yeah, really bad situation. Really, really bad situation. And I don't think this is all Chip Kelly's fault, but Chip Kelly didn't do anything to save his job either. And it's such a mess. And I do have to point this out. I do want to point this out because I'll just say it. Nepotism is a big problem in NFL coaching. It is.
Thank you. Yes.
You get so many percentage of coaches who just get a job based on who their dad is. Pete Carroll came on, and 2 of his assistant coaches are his sons. The Raiders might have the worst. Sorry, let me back up and restate that. The Raiders have the worst offensive line in football, and it's not even close. Like you said, Andrew, they gave up 10 sacks yesterday. It could have been 15. I feel bad for Geno Smith. Not that Geno Smith is covering himself in glory, but what do you do when you're playing behind the worst offensive line in football?
You know how many times he got hit, Frank? You know how many times he got hit?
21, 22?
He got hit 20 times. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I was impressed, actually. You finished the game. The Raiders' offensive line coach, the worst offensive line in the NFL, is Brennan Carroll. That is Pete Carroll's son. He ain't lost his job, has he? This is what Pete Carroll, go ahead, get your kids jobs. That's great. But if it doesn't work out and you end up having the worst offensive line in the NFL with your son coaching the offensive line, you should hear the criticism for it. And I think that he's just made a lot of missteps. And even though I like Pete Carroll, again, I talked last week, I think he's got a resume that could put him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, resume could put him in the College Football Hall of Fame. He's had a great career, but there's no upside to running this back in 2026. He was brought in to immediately raise the competitive level of the Las Vegas Raiders. Not that they were going to even get out of last place, but that's what the Raiders kept saying. Well, we need a culture, blah, blah, we need to take. It's gotten so much worse. They were way better under Antonio Pierce. They were way better with our friend Josh McDaniels. It has gotten so bad for the Raiders.
Oh, man.
I think they're the worst team in football right now behind the Titans, and I don't see how Pete Carroll comes back. I just don't. It just doesn't make any sense to bring back a 75-year-old coach after the season he's had.
This had to be for Frank to dap up the Josh McDaniels era of the Raiders means this is literally the worst thing. That is unbelievable. I've never expected
you know how bad
to
it was,
Frank.
Charles. It's worse. It's worse now.
Hey, listen. And the complication here.
Josh always told me that his mom loved watching my show on NFL Network. So I just want to say thank you, Mrs. McDaniels. Okay. And we love your son. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're not. Josh is fine. Josh is this is so far in the rearview mirror for him right now. He's like, thank God, I'm good. I'm all right. I'll with Drake May. But no, there's what's really interesting about this that goes beyond just the immediate. Look, you fired your special teams coordinator. You fired your offensive coordinator. Who the hell was building this staff in the first place? Mm-hmm. And by the way, Chip Kelly came out. He let the cat out of the bag a long time ago and said, when I sat for an interview, the guy who got me on board was Tom Brady. He basically said that Tom represented the ownership group in the interview. He pointed it at Tom Brady as being his guy that helped persuade him to end up taking this job with the Raiders. So not a great look for him to get fired. And it really have been described as sort of a Brady-inspired move, which when he ended up on Pete Carroll's staff, people were like, what's the connection there? Wait a minute, what's the connection between Pete and Chip Kelly? People weren't making the natural connector to him becoming Pete's offensive coordinator. And then after what Chip Kelly said, people were like, the connector was Tom. Like he's like, he was just painted as a Tom guy. Then Geno Smith, obviously Geno Smith has the background that he has with Pete Carroll. There's no question about that, but it's been floated out there that Tom preferred Geno Smith over Sam Darnold. Also not great. So what now has transpired? You have people through the league, particularly Patriots people, ex-Patriots people who have proliferated throughout the NFL, who still have relationships with Tom, who still keep an eye on what's going on with Tom, who are now asking, is everybody on the same page in that organization? And, one of them I was talking to today said, look, man, I think Pete's on his page. I think Mark Davis is on his page. And I think Tom is on his page. And he said, and I don't think any of those three pages are together. I'm like, that is not a great thing to ultimately hear about this team. And Mark Davis, I have a dream. One day I dream of being hired and fired by Mark Davis and have him paying me for a couple of years. That is my dream, because that list is so long. I gotta be on it someday.
Goodness.
Like, look, I just, as long as I stick around long enough.
I had no idea where you were going with that. I have a dream, and that a guy in a white jumpsuit will fire me and pay me to go home. Yeah, okay. The Browns, by the way, wore their white helmets and white jerseys together, which had the first time they have ever in franchise history worn that. Look a little bit different. Like down at field level, I could tell you the helmet and the jersey slightly, like not exactly the same shade of white. I thought it looked better on TV, much better than it did down on the field. I thought it was interesting, though. It wasn't a troll. I don't think anyone thought about it, but it's, hey, we're going to show up in the home of a man whose dad made the white jumpsuit famous. And we're going to go white hats and white shirts. And we're going to beat you in your own building.